Hi everyone, it's Rebecca Jones, Tippy Connect Liaison here. Thank you so much for sharing your lunchtime with us today. Today we'll be starting our 4-part Leadership Series 2020 presented by Chad Q. Brown of Profile LLC. Chad is a world-renowned behavioral strategist and leadership expert who understands what it takes to lead at an anatomic level. For over 13 years, Chad has been researching leadership, communication, and personality traits on how their implementation affects success. His teaching uses highly validated behavioral tools used by Fortune 500 companies and the U.S. military that have been simplified for utilization by a broader, more individualized audience. His belief is that the application of behavioral tools and cutting-edge technology can make any individual and team not only stronger, but drastically more successful. Thank you also to our series sponsor, Duke Energy. Duke Energy is one of the largest electric power holding companies in the United States, providing electricity to 7.7 million retail customers in 6 different states. Duke's commercial business owns and operates diverse power generation assets in North America, including a portfolio of renewable energy assets. They are transforming their customers' experience, modernizing their energy grid, generating a cleaner energy, and expanding their natural gas infrastructure to create a smarter energy future for their customers. Duke understands the value of supporting young professionals in their career path. You can learn more about Duke's career opportunities at www.dukeenergy.com/our-company/careers. Thank you for being with us today. Chad, you're welcome to take it away.
All right, thanks, Rebecca. I want to make sure I thank Rebecca Jones for all the communication today. You've done an awesome job. I'm pretty amazed at how many people showed up on their lunch. So thank you for all your help. You do a great job over there, and I'm excited to be a part of it. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Chad Brown. I'm, as Rebecca mentioned, I'm right here in Lafayette. I'm right downtown. I can look out my window and see the courthouse. I'm a Purdue grad, so I thought I'd support the Boilermakers today. But as Rebecca mentioned, I'm a behavioral consultant, HR consultant that works in the world of business and sports, and we have some proprietary software that enhances a lot of things when it comes to culture, team building, hiring, leadership development, and overall employee enhancement and development there. So what we do is unique, and we're proud of it. And I want to talk to you a little bit about what we do today. Rebecca, I'm going to share my screen. I think I can now, if I remember right. And I'm going to open up a presentation to talk to you guys. Again, I can't hear you, but I do believe I've got the chat box open for when we get into the Q&A. Hopefully I'll be able to see those, and we can do that towards the end. But to get started, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, this is a leadership series, and we're going to do this, and I'm hoping you guys will all attend the next 3 sessions, 4 total, to talk about not only your behavioral assessments that many of you took, and if you haven't taken it, know that's offered free to you from Profile, from the Chamber. And so we want to make sure it's 20 minutes on a phone or computer or a tablet, and you answer some questions about yourself, and it comes out with a pretty cool 24 to 30 page behavioral report. And I'll talk about what assessments you're actually taking. But if you have not taken it, reach out to Rebecca or myself. I'll put up my contact information at the end, and we will get you a link to take it to where you can use it in the next 3 series pieces. This is a leadership series. So we're going to talk about you. We're going to talk about self-awareness. We're going to talk about the world of people and the world of culture. And when I say people, I mean the people we work with each and every day, how to build effective teams, how to be as effective as you can individually. And but a lot of what our business does, what Profile does, is we, at the end of the day, quantify subjectivity, what we feel. He or she is a leader. Well, why? Well, I feel that. We should hire her because, well, I feel that. And so we get into so many feelings that are very hard to quantify in the world of culture. Well, our culture is great. Well, why? Well, I feel that. And so with the assessments and with the proper communication, with the proper structure and questioning amongst each other, we think we can quantify, and you can quantify better than you ever have, making the world of relationships and teams, enhancing effectiveness overall. On the front cover of our website, it says organizational excellence. That's subjective, but we all know that certain places are renowned and are known for it. Other places, not so much. I'm a sports guy, so I hope there's no Browns fans out there, but if you know the Cleveland Browns, they've had many years of struggles. But the New England Patriots, if you're Colts fans, don't throw things at me either. They haven't. What is it that they're doing differently? And so businesses are just the same way. And so we want to go down that path today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually show a 2-minute video to get your wheels going in the right direction. I believe in stuff like this because me talking the whole time, I don't want to lose you. So let's try a 2-minute video. Make sure you guys can hear it. If you can't hear it, chime in on the chat and we'll figure it out. And if it doesn't work, we'll skip to the next section.
Right. Thank God. 10 years, Tyler. I've worked here for 10 years. I brought in 80% of our clients. I grew this company from a 6-man operation into a 60-person machine. 20-hour days, man. At nights, away from my wife and children. My father died, man. And on the day of his memorial, he sent me pears, which I'm allergic to. And you know this, because at the lunch where you hired me, we ate roquefort salad and I went into anaphylactic shock. And along with the pears that could have killed me, you sent a card with a 1-line hallmark message and a typed out signature from the team. And for all this, Tyler, I thank you. You see, for days I've been plagued by this question. How do I honor my father's legacy? And I realized I honor it by taking what I've learned from how he lived his life and having it shape the way I go on living mine. And so here it is, Tyler. I quit. Hold on. No hard feelings, man. I walk out of here in triumph. I came, I saw, I conquered. Sanjay, it's all you now, brother. Peace.
Minimize my screen here. And of course, I opened up Apple Music. Hang on, everybody. Hit the wrong button there.
I don't know. Maybe instead of running in the morning, go for a walk. Slow it down.
That video, ladies and gentlemen, is a way to get the wheels in your brain going in a certain direction. Hopefully everybody can see me. I'm going to open up the chat, or hopefully everybody could hear that. Just let me make sure here. All right, good. Sounds like everybody could hear it. So when you see that and you hear those words and you hear about, you know, he's leaving, he's quitting, and there's probably a lot more there than we know. It's obviously a television show, but in the world of culture, in the world of teams, things are inside of each and every person. We don't always know what's going on. And we know it costs a lot of money when a business loses someone, attrition happens. We know it's a lot of energy and a lot of time with conflict in the workplace. These things cost businesses money. It causes people stress. I mean, it can really, really hurt not only the organization, but each and every person inside when things aren't, when they're not effective, when they're not in place. And so what we try and do is bring in some data to talk about and quantify these problems. And I start off with a company called Google that many of you have heard of. Well, Google made $162 billion last year, B as in boy. And that's a lot of money. They're one of the biggest things on the planet. And I love their mission statement. They were founded in September 4th, 1998. And when they started, they set out to organize the world's information. Pretty simple. And they've done a hell of a job. That's not easy to do what they've done. But what I also want you to know is what we do. And kind of along those lines, because we're going to talk about Google in a minute, our company was founded in 2013, January 15th. And our mission statement is to humanize sports and business. Let me talk about humanize, what it actually means. To humanize is to make something friendlier to humans. It makes things more civilized. It's refined and understandable. So, for example, you need to humanize characters when you're writing a story so people will understand them. To humanize is to make things more humane, easier for humans to relate and appreciate. I'm not going to read to you all today, guys, but I think that term isn't used a lot in the business and team setting. If I were to ask you what's more important to your business, to your business's success, people or processes? Processes mean the everyday, our meeting structure, our calendar, how we organize safety if you're in manufacturing, how you organize your accounting if you're in the world of finance. Like all these processes, they engulf us. People matter. And a lot of people will argue people are more important, but how much time do we actually as a business, or how much time do we actually work on people? Because we all know we work a lot on processes. And so the humanizing piece, if we could get better there, could your manager work more effectively with you? Could you work more effectively with your manager, with other subordinates, with other team members? I bring in this case study. And if any of you guys are like a long read, because it's a long read, there's a story from Google, and it was a case study conducted in 2016. Actually, it was conducted in 2015. The article was 16, where Google set out to learn and quantify what was an effective team. What was the perfect team? Kind of hard to quantify if you think about it. Julia Rozovsky was the head of people analytics, and she's the main character in this article. And she was given an unlimited budget to go out and hire the smartest people she could find to help measure teams. And they measured over 182 teams within the walls of Google. So Gmail, the Google Ads team, the Drive team, all that. If you guys are familiar with Google products, some teams had 12 people, some teams had 70 people. But they wanted to look and study what's effective, what's not. We've got the resources to do it. Why wouldn't we? Well, their point of reference in all of this from a data standpoint was a thing called the Harvard Business Review, which many of you have heard of. The Harvard Business Review has over 3,000 articles in it that talk about and have studied what are effective teams. Well, from a consultant standpoint, if Google, $162 billion last year, doesn't know how yet the effective teams are created, the perfect teams are created, and the Harvard Business Review has 3,000 articles on effective teams, to me, nobody's figured it out yet. But we know chemistry matters. We know culture matters because we write about it and we read about it and we study it and we are in awe of it. So how do you get there? Well, what Google did in the first year is they studied the heck out of these teams, and they used the business review, the Harvard Business Review, to look in the articles about, hey, if this team has a dominant leader and the subordinates are more role players, is that what it makes up an effective team? Did they socialize together? Was the leader of the team wired a certain way, or the employees of the team wired a certain way? What backgrounds did they come from? What educations did they come from? They looked at everything. In year one, they couldn't figure it out. In year one, they didn't understand, and they were frustrated. They were really frustrated on what had happened with, they had all of these resources, but they couldn't quantify what effective teams were yet. So what they did is they started to dive into more of a soft skill. What skill sets, instead of resumes and hard skills, people had. And the soft skills, what I mean by that is leadership type categories, words we use. And they found an article in the Harvard Business Review that was talked about group norms. Group norms were basically standards that were in the team, but every team had different standards. And they kind of started to go down a path where those standards worked. And basically what they found is these standards that were kind of unwritten, but accepted by the group, is where these effective teams started to show up. And then they started to run with that concept. And again, it's a long read. If you ever have flights, we're all in COVID-19, but if you are on an airplane, it's a great airplane read. And you can look it up, the New York Times, Project Aristotle, Google is how you can search for it. But after they dove in to that world of standards and norms, and how each team, they may be different, but they're effective. What's effective? They're meeting goals. People work well together. But the biggest thing Google wanted to know is who was meeting goals, who was meeting project deadlines. And then ineffective teams were dysfunctional and fighting and not meeting project deadlines. At the end of 2 years, this is what they came up with. They came up with 5 key characteristics that if every team had these, they were effective. Think about the size and the strength of this case study. Google, 162 billion, unlimited budget, smartest people on the planet, 182 teams. I have not found a case study. In our business, we look for them all the time. And there's some great ones out there, don't get me wrong. But we haven't found one more powerful than this. This is what the biggest company on the planet came up with. The first characteristic for effective teams was dependability. And I know it sounds like a cliche. Oh, if we're dependable, gosh darn it, we're going to be good. No. Really drill into this and think about your team. Team members get things done on time and meet expectations all the time. Does yours? Huge one for leaders and management. Structure and clarity was number 2. High-performing teams have had and have clear goals and have well-defined roles within the group. There was no gray area with structure and clarity. I know my job, I know my title, I know my responsibilities, and I go to achieve them every day. Meaning, the work has personal significance to each member. Ladies and gentlemen, we're all different. I may have a job that is not where I want to be the rest of my life, but that job is something that can help me get there. That's meaning, an example of it. Well, what if someone had found that perfect job in accounting or insurance or the medical field, whatever it may be? It meant something to them that they were impacting their personal circumstances and their personal situation. The job had meaning for them. Number 4 was impact. The group believes their work is purposeful and positively impacts the greater good. What's that mean? It means that the work we do, let's pretend I work for Google in Gmail or Google Ads or whatever team it may have been, we are absolutely impacting this company in a positive way. So if the employee or the team did not feel that their work had impact on the greater good of the company, they just sat in their cubicle and they made their reports and nobody ever talked to them, like, it was dysfunctional. It failed. Dependability, structure, clarity, meaning, and impact. Those are the big 4. But then there's also a 5th. And if you research this case study, this is the most discussed and written about characteristic. Number 5 is called psychological safety. Psychological safety. When's the last time you heard about that? needing to be in place to be effective teams. Here's a definition from Google. Psychological safety is a shared belief held by its members of a team that the team is safe for interpersonal risk-taking. What's it mean? It means you can speak up. It means you can be who you are. It means you can take your real self to work and not be judged. I'm pausing because I want you all to think about your world. And does that exist? In my world, that I work with a lot of sports teams we mentioned, all types. We work with Ray Magnet Wire here in town, a manufacturing company. We work with a metals company in Fort Wayne. We work with a bank, multiple banks in Chicago, construction companies. Like, I don't see this. I rarely see this. A sense of confidence that the team will not embarrass, reject, or punish someone for speaking up. It could be you're on Slack or a messaging tool and you send a message, but you're nervous to say something because you're afraid somebody's going to give you a hard time back. Or you may be wrong, or you're not sure, or you lack confidence because your boss is tough or a coworker's tough. We're nervous, we lack confidence. I mean, there's a million ways to get into the world of psychological safety, but it had to be intact. All 5 of these had to be there. Dependability, structure, clarity, meaning, impact, and psychological safety had to be there. And I bring this up because where we're going to go in the world of you and self-awareness and leadership and communication and building teams, we're going to reference this case study a lot because it's hard, almost impossible, in our opinion, to debate it and argue it. The smartest people on the planet with an unlimited budget and thorough 182 teams, this is what they came up with. And the article will explain it much more in detail. But for the sake of time, let me keep going. I'm going to skip through group norms. And based on that, we hang our hat on that case study a lot. There's others we use. But when it comes to our system at Profile that uses an assessment battery, that uses a lot of consulting, we try and incorporate a lot of data like that to get you guys to think a little differently. And this is our client base. We work with the U.S. Army, most specifically Fort Campbell, which is 35,000 soldiers on the border of Kentucky and Tennessee. I'm a special advisor to the Dallas Cowboys in behavior. The NCAA as a whole uses our software to facilitate assessments. We work with manufacturing companies, corporate clients, Nike, and the NFL Combine. So business and sports is our world. But at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, we do people. We do talent strategy. We do team building architecture, behavioral expertise. And those are just fancy words for to get your mind going in the right, maybe how this webinar can help you. And then we have obviously an HR assessment system, which I'll show you where all of your assessments live when you guys got done. And hopefully you all have a copy of those of you that take it, the PDF as well. Okay. So when we get to Profile, back to the beginning of what I mentioned, how do you quantify subjectivity? Well, let's go from, we'll get back to Google in a little bit. And we are going to talk about behavior here in a little while, your first assessment you took, but I'm going to lead into it. How do you quantify subjectivity? When we look at people, what goes through your mind? Well, a lot of times today, ladies and gentlemen, we look at somebody's resume because that's what HR is allowed to do. And that's really what the information we have access to. Or we may know somebody from the past, but there's a lot more. And what I want to go into is how we look at people. And maybe this model can help you guys look at people a little differently when you're hiring or when you're putting teams together. I want you to live on the left and look at the triangle. We look at people to start like a triangle. There's 3 points to a triangle. Let's look at 3 different categories. But I want you to use the subjective measuring tool of 0 to 10. Okay, 0 meaning the worst, 10 being the best of the best, almost perfect. Okay. What you all know today when you look at people in the workplace is you look at someone's resume. What's production? Our word for production is resume or overall body of work in their career. So when you look at someone and instead of walking them down the hall to say, hey, what do you think of Sally in the interview? Or, hey, what do you think of Tom working on your team this week? And they give you feedback. Don't get me wrong, that's all great. But 0 to 10, how do you feel? Well, 7. Well, why not a 10? Boom, conversation begins. How do we measure someone's resume? You guys are probably pretty good at this, or your companies are, because we've gotten pretty good through the years with executive recruiters and hiring managers and just really strong businesses being good at putting people in position to succeed based on production and work, okay, and the career and skill set. But then there's the next topic is called external in our world. And the external topic is the outside influences that can impact someone's behavior or production at work. This is a hard thing to vet in HR land because it's hard to ask about personal scenarios. But in the world of behavior, there's a category called nature and nurture. Nature is our genetics. It's, none of us can control who our parents are, right? But it's how we're wired via genetics. But in psychology land, they bring in nurturing, and nurturing is mentors, teachers, guardians, parents, surroundings, environment that mold us and combine our genetics as well as, how we were raised and how we were molded. That's external. And finding out a lot about people's external really matters because that's what they're bringing to the workplace, is how they were molded and brought along is another easy way to say it. So 0 to 10, how would you measure someone's external? And then there's the piece that Profile provides, and that is the behaviors and values piece. Behaviors, values, motivations, assessments. What can the assessments show us from how are they wired? Are they more of a type A personality? Are they more of an extroverted personality? Are they more of an analytical brain? Like, how do we know and eliminate guesswork? Well, the assessments can take you into that. If you know those 3 things, it can take you such a long way. But there's more. What about topics like desire? 0 to 10, does someone love to work? Do they love their job? We get this all the time in sports, whether it be a golfer, a tennis player, a football player. Do they love golf? Well, how do we actually know? Do they love accounting? Do they love finance? Do they love just to manage and lead people? How do we know? The assessments can help you there. Ego, one of the biggest poisons in the workplace. Ego, I'm better than you. I'm going to live on that definition. There's a few other definitions of ego, but I am better than the team, or I'm selfish, or me. This is a problem in the workplace versus humility and versus someone that's humble. Like, how do you measure that? That matters when it comes to building teams and working with others. How about maturity? 0 to 10. I don't care if you can be 21 years old and, a 10 on maturity. You were just raised and you've worked a lot, and maturity is strong with you. But my dad plays golf with a guy that's 60 some odd years old, and it's open shirt and Jimmy Buffett drink in his hand, and he acts like he's 25. I love the guy, but maturity, you give him a rating lower. So all these things matter, and I could go a little longer, but I want to get your minds going differently than maybe you've thought about people before. And there's obviously IQ is the last. So there's book smarts and how they've done in school, how they've done in certifications, Six Sigma, black belt, to any of that stuff. Or there's just street smarts as well. And how can you measure that? So these are all areas we want you guys to think about. And what we've done with our assessment battery is I've looked at a lot of them. And the assessments, guys, they're really, I love them. I clicked the button a little early there. Sorry. I love assessments because they can all be good for anybody. They're like a diet. This is my analogy. A diet, you can find a million diets on the internet. They only work if you follow the rules, if you chip away at them either every day or every other day, and you work at it, and you have access to it, you revisit it. Assessments are the same way. So many times in human resource land or in corporate, just environments, we have assessments there, and they're check the box. Like we gave he or she the assessment, in their hiring process or in the interview stages or even in a team building stage, but we use them for a day and we put them in a drawer. And so just before I get into DISC and some of these other assessments we use, this is what the software looks like. So all of you guys that took it, we labeled you Tippy Connect, and forgive me, anybody that's on here, I'm gonna make Skylar here the guinea pig. but we can look at different intensity levels with behavior. We can look at different behavioral styles, naturally, how people are, who they are at the core, how they can change, what they value, some other categories. And this is just what we call a snapshot page to give us quick answers, but we can also print off the PDF, make basically the HR assessment software. And you can print off PDFs, email them to candidates or to current people. Sorry, Skylar, putting you on the spot, but this is where we're going to go as we look at these things within the software. Let me get back to the presentation. So our assessments, first and foremost, is the DISC assessment, which many of you have taken, and some people just go, oh, I've been there, done that. Maybe you have. We hang our hat on this assessment. It was founded in 1928 from a gentleman named Thurman Marston out of Harvard, and it has a 90% validation, and it's used in 27 different languages across the world. It's arguably the most popular profile in the world. I mentioned the assessment worlds are like diets. Well, there's a bunch of these type of assessments. There's this is DISC. It's a 4-quadrant model. Some people may have used colors before. Very good assessment. It's a 4-quadrant model, just to give you examples. But there's Myers-Briggs, and there's Hogan, and there's Caliper. There's the Wonderlic. They all do different things. What speaks to you as an organization? I encourage it for anybody because it just helps us get better at people. But you've got to use them and chip away at them. And that's why we have the software, because you can go back and see these things every day. And there's a 30-page report talking about how to communicate, how not to communicate, and really teach a simple system. But for us in DISC, in my days after coaching and getting into becoming an entrepreneur, this one spoke to me the most because I thought it was easy for everybody in the organization to apply it. Some people think DISC, they roll their eyes at, I've been there, done that. But DISC is very easy to learn. Yes, it's easy. Maybe you want something new, but DISC is hard to master. Everybody has a level of D, I, S, and C, but a lot of people teach, well, you're a D and you're an I and you're an S and a C. You are, that's your primary emotion, which we're going to talk about, but it's not, but you have all 4, and that's not talked about enough. So we'll get to that. But DISC does have some holes in it, which we absolutely recognize. And so I have not found an assessment that gets into the specifics of people, of what do they care about specifically, not broad stroke like a lot of these assessments are. What I mean by broad stroke is if you're a type A personality, well, there's a lot of context that goes with that. If you're an extroverted personality, there's a lot of context that goes with that. In core, we're going to get into, and you guys can look at page 3 of your assessment, you're going to look at what you actually choose specifically that matters to you. Is it do the right thing? Is it money? Is it religion? Is it leading people? Is it working well with others? Is it learning? We want to know that. And if you do know that, as a manager and as a leader and as a business owner, you can tap into your employees like never before. But then we still think there's holes. So we found another assessment called Drive. I want to know how people are motivated. So DISC and core are more of the what, factual. This is the data. This is how the person's wired. This is what they care about. Motivations is the why. It's how and why they are motivated and why they care. So we'll get into that as well. But that's what you all took, and that's what your assessment. DISC is the first 15 pages, core's 3 or 4, drives the last 10. Okay? So let's get into, I'm going to skip through this for the sake of time, because this is some other things we do. But I do want to talk about fit. How do you quantify fit? I'm just looking at time here. Fit is by many professional sports organizations being obsessed about. I'm talking to the world of corporate America, and I know that. Steve Ballmer, who was the former Microsoft billionaire giant, Bill Gates' right hand for many years at Microsoft, is now the owner of the LA Clippers. The LA Clippers are obsessing about the word fit. And there's a lot of stories that go with that, but what is actually a fit for us? So Microsoft started that. He's transitioned that to the Clippers. They just struggled and fired their coach. They're still working on it. But to us, for a very simple formula, norms and standards, as you read that article, the group norms or standards, I'm going to just to kind of give text, plus people being able to adapt equal fit. And you're probably going, where are you going with that? We're going to get back to the group, the Google case study, but When standards are set, this is who we are. They're accepted by everybody. But adaptability, hold on a second, I'm checking my Q&A here. But adaptability is one of those things where we have to, okay, I got some questions coming in, good. Adaptabilities are, we may be wired a certain way. We may be wired a certain way, care about certain things, but can we change to fit in a group and maybe disagree at times, but then commit to the decisions that are made to do what's best for the organization? That's usually what fit means, but it's a complicated and tricky subject, which we'll get into. But obviously, it's something that's hard to quantify. Again, ladies and gentlemen, my goal is to get you to think different than you have and ultimately get better at people. All right, so what we're going to do here, we're going to look at DISC. And all of you guys have your reports, hopefully. As you get into DISC and you get into the values and you get into motivators and the profile report, we got to start with self-awareness. And I'm going to skip over a video we usually use here, but self-awareness is a term, I think, today that's used very loosely. Okay, let me skip over my Gary Vee video. And we're going to talk about, I want you guys to come up with, and does everybody have access to the chat room here? I'd like you guys all to open up your chat, and we're going to measure this thing a little bit. Okay, so where is it here? What I want you to ask yourself before we get into your assessments and before we get into the behavioral side, this leadership series, part 1, is going to be an intro into culture, an intro into effective teams, as we've talked about, but also self-awareness and behavior, the DISC assessment. We're going to intro that today. And then as we wind down, we'll do some Q&A, and we'll get to the other assessments in the meetings to come. But to understand yourself, the emotions, the behaviors, the feelings that you have, let's just play a simple game. And what I'd like you to do is open up the chat room here. I'm going to open up the participants. And ask yourself the question, are you an indirect person or are you a direct person? Pretty simple. Grab a pen, grab a computer, type this up, whatever. Which one are you? But I'm going to give it some context, okay? An indirect person, just to give you guys a little bit more, is a very patient person. They ask questions, but they don't tell. They're a little slower in pace because they're driven by being correct. And they follow rules to the letter of the law. That's an extremely indirect person, okay? But a direct personality or a direct behavioral style, they're a little more fast-paced. They're going to tell instead of ask. They're very assertive. They're very blunt and direct. They're impatient. They're constantly moving. And they like to follow rules to the spirit of the law. As you look at yourself, write down one of those words, indirect or direct. Okay, and we're going to do this one more time, but with a different set of words. Everybody got it? I can't hear you, so hopefully you do. Indirect or direct, pick one. Now, are you guarded or are you open? So you're going to have an indirect or direct, one word written down. Now you're going to pick one of these. But what's a guarded personality? A guarded personality is they're close to the vest. They're more poker-faced. They keep things inside. They're hard to read. They don't show emotions. Another word is stoic. You know, have you ever been in that interview with someone where they just won't show you their emotion? Or it's just, they're hard to read. And they like things, this is a weird one, but they like things in writing because they don't necessarily want to talk about it. They want to make sure they have all the facts and they can refer back to those things in writing. They're sometimes a little more non-trusting. That's guarded. Now, an open personality, pretty easy to spot, okay? Guarded a little harder. Open is we share our feelings. TMI says too much information. They're going to talk and they're going to put things out there. They're going to speak before they think. So think emotional decisions. And they wear their feelings on their sleeve. I love it. People are starting to put it in the chat. Please keep doing it. They wear their feelings on their sleeve. So now are you guarded or are you open? So you get indirect or direct, guarded or open, you get two, okay? And I love it because I'm looking up here and we got a lot of mix and matches. But now go ahead and write those down. But let's go here. Now we're going to score it, okay? And I want you just to score this on your own, but we're going to go into the world of DISC. Because DISC is a simple and easy system that's so powerful. But it starts here. So let's talk about indirect and direct first. Which one were you? You know, I see them all flying up here on the webinar chat, which is great, okay? Now, you may have said, I'm a little bit of both. I'm not sure. So how about this? If you're really indirect, now you're going to write down a letter and a number. If you're really indirect, you are extremely indirect. A is your letter. Write that letter down. We're going to score this with a letter and a number to end the exercise. But you had to start with guarded, open, indirect, direct. Very indirect people, they choose A. Very direct people, that's all you are. You're D. But you weren't sure. You're on the fence, but you leaned direct. You leaned indirect. If you lean indirect, pick B, as in boy. If you lean direct, you pick C, as in Charlie. Okay? Now everybody should have a letter. Now let's pick a number, and we'll finalize this thing. You went guarded or open. Well, if you're extremely guarded, you're 1. I mean extreme. If you're extremely open, hey, I make decisions. Okay, this is my timer for us. Sorry about the noise. But if you're extremely open, you're a 4. So extremely guarded 1, extremely open 4. You're on the fence, but you lean to guarded, you're 2. You lean to open, you're 4. Or sorry, 3. So now let's look at your score. Perfect. You guys are doing it perfect. If you chose a combination of 1, 2, C, and D, so see how you guys are all doing it on the chat. Hopefully you can see that, okay? It could be D1, D2, C1, C2, okay? But only this combination. In the world of DISC, you're a D style, okay? I don't know if you guys know how to raise your hands on the chat, but if you were a D style, go ahead and raise your hand, okay? You guys didn't know there was a way to take DISC over the internet and in Zoom, okay? If you were, let's go to another combination. A C and a D, 3 and a 4, any combination, D and a 4, D and a 3, C and a 4, C and a 3. You would be in the I style. So write down your letter as we go. You guys can put them up there if you want, okay? Because there's one more, there we go. Rebecca Jones, the I, you knew that was coming. It's my I style. They're gonna be fast, they're gonna be quick, okay? Good job, Rebecca. She and I have talked a lot about this stuff. How about this combination? A and a 4, A and a 3, B and a 4, B and a 3, and any combination but no other combination, you would be indirect and open, and you'd be an S. So one thing I haven't said much is I go guarded and direct. So someone that keeps things in but very blunt in their personality, that is a D style. Someone that's very direct but very open in their feelings, that's an I style. But then we have an S style. I'm going to explain more of this in a minute. Indirect, passive aggressive a little bit times, keeps things in, hard to read, but very, very open in their feelings. That's an S style. That's the people that just would have this combination. But then finally, what if you had an A and a 1, A and a 2, B and a 1, B and a 2, any combination? Okay? You would be the C style. So write down your letter as you have scored it. I love the hands going up. That's cool. Write it down. Write your letter down. But then I want you to break out your report, ladies and gentlemen. And let's look at something. Grab your report. And again, Skylar, don't hate me because you're the one that's our guinea pig here. And I want you to look at your report. And I want you to look at this combination of letters right here. I want you to live on this first letter. Right here, the far left letter. That is your natural style, okay? And that is who you are at the core. But notice there's some other letters. Well, our DISC assessment is a 30-question DISC assessment. Notice the last 5 questions had 2 options instead of 4. It's a longer DISC with us. Most people are anywhere from 15 to 24 questions. I'll tell you what those 5 questions mean at some point. But the second set of letters is your adaptive style. I'm gonna address a question that came up. Good job on all these guys. That right out of the gates, I think that Sydney asked to explain the difference between natural and adaptive styles. The first set of letters right here, that is who you are at the core when no one else is around. And notice your D, I, S, and C on the graph, it measures intensity. So this person, Skylar, her D's pretty low. She has it though. It's just not easy for her to use, which we'll get into what they mean next time. But the I and the S, this person's very relational. It's all extroversion and family and friends. It's very much a get along with everybody's style. Okay, but that's very high. And then the C goes down, okay, when she's at work, but it goes up when she's who she is. So it shows how people can change naturally. Sometimes these things show up where this is an I and an S and an I and an S. What you see is what you get. So I get the question all the time, well, if your natural and adaptive are the same, is that bad? Because I can't adapt. No, no, no. It just means the tool allows you to be aware of maybe, hey, my D's lower or my C's higher, and I need to change and think and be intentional about these behaviors in these scenarios. People that change naturally, for example, her, Skylar's C goes up, well, she can become more detailed and data and analytical and problem solving. She is naturally, but she puts it away at work, which we talk about another time. But I want you guys to go back to the exercise now, okay? And I told you to live on your first letter. Hopefully you guys are good on natural style. Let me explain the adaptive style. How you change, also to give it more context, is how you change at work, how you change in a competitive environment, and how you change in a new environment. Those are the natural ways, okay, that adaptive displays, which is cool that can show those things. But what you've got to do, we're going back to self-awareness. I want you to do now as we wind down, just on this first one, it's a little bit of a teaser to the next time, because we want you guys to come back, okay? We want you to come back. But were you right? Did you choose the letter that shows up on the far left of your behavior report? And if you haven't taken it, again, email me in a little bit, guys, or Rebecca, and we'll get you the link. But were you right? And maybe the letter you chose is in there somewhere, but that first letter, that's the most powerful. If you thought you were a D and you're really an S, we got to talk a little bit. No big deal. A lot of people struggle with self-awareness. It's a term used loosely in society. What's it actually mean? Guys, assessments, they allow you to audit yourself in a new way, put some rules around your behavior, and just make sense. It's an easy exercise. It's an easy tool to take what's always been guesswork and eliminate that guesswork, okay? So as I wind down here, that's what we're going to do the next time. We're going to really dive into DISC, but also motivators and values. To leave you with a definition of DIS and C, if you've never taken DISC before, okay? I know I got 10 minutes. We're going to make it Q&A, Rebecca, in about 2 minutes, okay? D's are dominant personalities. They're aggressive. They're type A people. They are great at getting things done and being task-oriented. They are not so great at working with others and showing empathy and care, because they are so good at getting things done, they can sometimes run over people in the group and forget about the rest of us, okay? They're really good leaders at times, but they can also, D can stand for something else, and I'll let you guys figure that one out. Everybody wants to be a D, okay? That's the one thing. You guys that have done this, I know you've done this before, and you went back and you're like, well, I was a D, but I took it in this one, I wasn't a D. That happens all the time in my world, and no offense to anybody. But you don't always want to be a D, because D can be tough, and they can really struggle with self-awareness. I have that letter, and I battle with it every day, because it's a great thing at times, and it can be a curse at times. And that's what we're going to show you with all these behavioral styles. Is that's what's cool about this assessment, is like Strength Finders is a great assessment, but it's very positive. DISC is one of those tools that's going to show you the strengths and the cool things, but also what's hard for us in growth areas and blind spots. The I styles, these are our fun people. These are our extroverts. These are our fast thinkers, intuitive salespeople, great with words. If there's a party last night, you I's, I know you were there, even though, you know, it was Wednesday, you still probably had one. Okay, these are our fun people. And they're great, great, great with words and fun and people. They just sometimes, back to the growth areas and blind spots, They sometimes have 15 things going at once, which they're good at, but they may have forgot that first, second, and third thing they started because they got going in some other areas. And so details they can struggle with at times because they have a lot going. Steadiness, stable, secure is the S style. These are our soldiers of the world. I love the S word, soldier. They do a job, they do it well, and they kick ass at it, guys. S's, they're hard to read because they're a little stoic. Remember we talked indirect? That's what they are. But they're open in their feelings because they're very caring, loving, loyal styles. The S style, you're going to deal with them because it's the highest percentage of people. We have multiple case studies to back that up. But they just do a job, they do it well. And it actually measures pace, the pace of which they work. The D and the I style are the most active styles. So sometimes they can conflict with the S because they want things done yesterday, or they lack details. And the S says, no, methodically, this is how we're going to do it. And so they have to work well together and understand each other to be effective. But the S, man, they're just the most loyal, caring, patient style. And they have a long fuse, but that long fuse of patience has a big bomb at the end of it. So be careful of that. And then the C style, they're correct, they're compliant. These are our data loving. It's not an IQ assessment, but these people are great at problem solving because they love data and they're driven to be right. Okay, they're driven to be right. So next time I'm going to get into primary emotions and dominant fears of this style and go a little deeper with the DISC assessment. But I wanted to leave you with kind of where we started. So for the last 4 minutes, 5 minutes, can I get any more Q&A, any more questions? I know we're leaving a lot to be discussed, but that's the point of the leadership series that Rebecca set up. Like I had to intro to where we're going to go. We're going to dive into you next time, and then the next 2 times, and then the third time it's going to be how to apply it all with each other. So hopefully you guys will come back. Any other questions, though? I'm going to look up here in the webinar chat. Please fire away if you want to talk about anything else with the Google study or DISC or other assessments or any more context with this definition. Feel free to, I want to pull up my contact information. So much more to talk about. Okay. That's like we already talked about. This is my contact information. And Rebecca, please chime in if there's anything else I need to address. I'm kind of trying to bring up see if the chat has anything else.
Definitely. If you have any last minute questions, we got just a few minutes here. I'll give you guys here just
there's a couple coming in here.
Seconds. So Sydney and Paige. Yep.
Paige is an I, so you were at the party last night. Good job. But I wouldn't consider myself an extrovert or be going to the party last night. All right, so I like to tease you guys. But Paige, do you have a second and third letter that showed up in that first set of letters? Can you chime in there? In fact, I could even look you up, and you may hate that. One of the things we're teaching today, so I'm going to be a little extreme in, so Paige is an IDDI, okay? So if you remember, the D style is very guarded. So Ds don't love necessarily social, okay? So you have a part of you, I would predict, that is very guarded and keeps to yourself. And this is a very leadership-oriented style, loves people, like it's very, very driven and direct style. But I still have a social side. And it may not be the party Page, but it could be a church. It could be your friends. It could be your neighbors. It's where do you get energy from people? So I try and teach this stuff and have some fun and tease the eyes. Maybe you went to parties back in the day, but that's just my way of teaching. These are our fun people. But it may be at your house with your family. But, you know, I styles, they get energy from people and they like social. So hopefully I answered that. It made sense. Okay. So remind me not to make you mad, by the way, Paige. Okay. I don't want to piss you off. Joking. Sydney. All right. So where is Sydney here? So for Harry Potter fans, I like to think of DISC as the Slytherin. Did you find her? Are those spirit animals? Because if those are spirit animals, I get that a lot, actually. I'm not sure if they're spirit animals, but I don't know Harry Potter that well. but I've had this come up before. It's funny you say that. So yes, Paige, I'm not gonna make you mad. Rebecca's bringing up, I can't do it. I know behavior. I just do not know these animals from Harry Potter. That's pretty funny. So I'm going
All right, they are Harry Potter houses. So I completely agree with Sydney on Ivy and Gryffindor. So I do, it looks like Nathan will get your assessment to you, and I don't see any more questions in the chat. If you do have more questions, feel free to email Chad at chad@profile.team. If you have any issues with getting your assessment or with any other items, the Zoom link, anything like that, feel free to email me at hello@tippyconnect.com. Chad, thank you so much for starting us off on a really great foot. We've learned a little bit about ourselves. I really find myself in the DISC assessment, and I use it to help guide my professional and personal life. So I hope everyone here can help find that guidance in their assessment as well, as we all collectively learn to become better leaders. I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll real quick here. If you guys could quickly take that. I want to again thank our series sponsor, Duke Energy, for supporting our young professionals. If you're interested to learn more about the career opportunities Duke Energy offers, visit dukeenergy.com/our company/career. Make sure, everyone, that you are here for session 2, Understanding Your Values, next week. I can't wait to kind of dissect some of those. Those are my favorite ones. So we'll see. Thanks for joining us. If you'd like to rewatch this webinar, visit our website, tippyconnect.com, or the link will be in the follow-up email. Go lead confidently with your new learned personality styles, and have a fantastic Thursday.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.